welcome. If this is your first foray into my channel, then welcome to day 5 of 30 of my beauty vlogging challenge. And if you have been following me from day 1, thank you. I hope that you've been enjoying yourself. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about bronzer. Bronzers are something that have become massively popular. But despite that, I feel like there's a lot of sort of confusion and misinformation out there. So I just wanted to share with you sort of how I approach bronzers. So when thinking about bronzers, you should bear in mind that there are sort of two schools or two camps when it comes to application. So traditionally, bronzer is applied to the high planes of the face because you are attempting to mimic what happens when you are out in the sun. And as most people can attest to that have ever been burnt, you tend to carry the color across your forehead, across your cheekbones and the bridge of your nose, and occasionally the chin. All of these sort of points of your face that push forward and pick up more of the sun more readily. So with that said, those are the areas that traditionally bronzer is applied to. Now, more recently, people have been using bronzers for contouring and shaping the face, which is fine, but it's a different placement because when you're shaping with the bronzer, it tends to be a little bit deeper in color and you're mimicking contouring shades, which again, are darker than your natural skin tone, and you're working on areas that are receding. So under the cheekbone, along the nose, kind of in the crease of your eye, under the lip, here along your jawbone and the chin, to sort of pull them back to give you sharper structure in the face. So the sort of point of contention comes up is that a lot of bronzers you see will look like something like this, where there's some shine and sheen and glow. And if you're contouring, you don't necessarily want to be putting something reflective in an area that you're trying to pull back, because it defeats the purpose, really. So in that case, you'd be looking for something like in here where the colors are all matte with no shimmer, and they're going to offer you that sort of true contouring where you're pulling back. So I don't actually have a matte bronzer because I just use the blushes and sculpting powders that I just showed you. But you can essentially get the same effect. So when you're looking for a bronzer, you need to know yourself how you want to wear it and what you're looking for in terms of what it's going to do for you. So if you want a glowy, sort of sun-kissed look, then while you can go for a matte bronzer, absolutely, generally you're looking for something with a bit of shimmer in. And if you're looking more to shape and contour, you definitely want to go matte for the truest representation of the work you're putting in. So the next thing I want to talk about with bronzers is how do you choose the right color? Because I mean, obviously if someone is 5 shades lighter or 5 shades darker than me, if we all use the same bronzer, it's going to look very different. Potentially way too dark on fair skin, potentially ashy or not showing up at all on deeper skin, and I mean even on the person in the middle, if the undertone isn't correct, it can just look off. So I would say the biggest complaints, big 3 that you hear about bronzer is it's too red, I look like a tomato, it's too orange, I look like a carrot, or it's too brown, I look dirty. So with those sort of 3 options, you can find which one complements your skin tone more. You certainly don't have to follow that, but it makes it a lot easier in terms of it looking more natural and looking how you would expect your skin to behave in the sun. And again, sort of bearing in mind what your skin is like, the texture in terms of shimmer versus matte. If you have highly textured skin, large pores, acne scars, other type of scarring, anything like that, you want to keep your shimmer to a minimum, or at least avoid the areas that are highly textured, just because anything that has that sort of glow to it will draw attention. Whereas if you're using something that is a little bit softer and more matte, or even like a satin finish, it's going to it's not going to accentuate it as much. So those are sort of the main points that I wanted to cover, and I'm just going to share with you some of the bronzers that I have. I don't have a ton of them just because I got into bronzers pretty late, but now that I have gotten into them, I do enjoy them. So the first one is actually my favorite bronzer. This is Annabelle's Mineral Bronzer, and the color is Terra. And this is what it looks like. It's just really pretty. It looks kind of orange in the container, and admittedly the first time I opened this I freaked out because I thought it was going to be way too orange, but it actually goes on more peachy, and it is the perfect glow. The sheen on it is fantastic. No glitter or anything like that. The next one I'm going to show you is one of those big old bronzers. This is from Marcel. It's their Sun Dune bronzer. And what I like about this one is that you can see the different shades in here. So you can just go for like the bronze look, or you can pull in that little bit of color. And it looks fantastic on the skin. These next ones are all mineralized skin finishes from MAC. This one is probably my favorite. This is Warm Blend, and it's literally the perfect blend. It's got like a peachy, kind of deep champagne, a chocolate brown, and gold, and you can use them individually or blended together. Fantastic. Sadly it was limited edition, but I think you can still find it at CCOs or online, different places. This next one I'd say I probably use the most just because it's the least shimmery while still having a bit of glow in. This is Warms, which I can't even remember when that came out, but it's been gone for a while. Now this is Gold Deposit, and it's one of the few permanent mineralized skin finishes. Now these ones they're hard for me to recommend because even though the color is absolutely stunning, especially on deeper skin, depending on, actually here, let me open this again. Depending on the veining, now you can see with this one, there's not a whole lot of it. There's kind of this massive chunk of gold here, a little bit under here, but sometimes if there's too much of the gold veining, it can be really glittery and really kind of obnoxious. But if you can find one that's a little more subtle, it is stunning. Now this one is actually a blush. This is Format, and when you look at it straight on, it just looks kind of brown. But when you turn it, it has this like gorgeous sheen to it. Now, for me, I need to use this with a light hand or I can look kind of crazy, but I would absolutely recommend this for in and around my skin tone and darker. It's fantastic. I think it actually makes a really good bronzer, and given that MAC doesn't have a decent selection of bronzers for deep skin, I think that is kind of awesome, at least in terms of the glowy traditional type bronzer. And then the last I'm going to show you, these are actually a mixture of blushes and contouring powders, and these are what I use when I want to contour. Very rarely will I put on like one of these just as a blush. This is shadowy. It's actually a sculpting powder from the Pro Store. This is Emote, which has been discontinued for a while. Tan Tone, which is quite possibly the best contouring color for me, but it sadly has also been discontinued. And then this is Blunt up here, which I use quite frequently. It's a little bit deep, well actually it's a lot a bit deeper than Tan Tone, but it works just as well. So those are all the products that I wanted to share with you, and I hope that that information was helpful, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.